right, hello everyone. Welcome, friends. Welcome to our weekly Tuesday Connect, where I connect with you live every week, and every week I share a topic of the week. Unless you guys have any questions that I get, otherwise I usually have a topic of the week that we can bring conversation around. So in this week, we're focusing on stress resiliency. So, I want to talk about this is because, for one, I focus on looking at stress, and this group is about helping you all beautiful women to learn more stress management techniques and how to deal better with our stress. And so I think that being more stress resilient is something that most people feel that they need or want to do. So, before we get into how we can actually build more stress resiliency, I want to talk a little bit about stress, the kind of stresses that we have. And I know we talked a bit about that last week, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But very simply put, you can think of stresses that we encounter externally in our environment or situations that are outside of ourselves. And then we also deal with internal stresses. So things like our feelings, emotions, thoughts, and these things that are generated from within us. Now, we live in a modern day world which is stressful. There are many things around us which are very different from what our bodies have been evolved to live, to live in such a way that is sort of healthy for us anymore, right? We are no longer being in contact with nature. We're indoors a lot. We have a lot of we're exposed to a lot of electronic devices. We have a lot of distractions in our lives. Our lives are getting faster and faster. And we have so much information coming at us, much more than what perhaps we have, much more than what is perhaps healthy, right? And then, and like we mentioned last week, there's pollution, um, there's food, how it's gotten so far from what's natural, and there are many other stresses in life, and especially during the time of the pandemic where our lives are again shifted, and we have to adapt, and there's a lot of stress, and there's isolation, and all of these things contribute to our stress. So, and then on top of that, we have our internal stresses. And so that's what I want to focus on today, is talking about the internal stresses that we create for ourselves. Because while there are certain things we can do about our external environment, and I would encourage, everyone to do as much as they feel comfortable and capable of making their environment as healthy and comfortable as possible. And we're going to get into that a bit more in the coming weeks. But I guess one of the probably more concerning stresses are the ones that we create for ourselves, because these are things or stress that we can't run away from. If it's within us, it's going to be with us, 24 hours, day in, day out. It's not like we can actually jump out of our bodies and run away, right? So these are the stresses that are usually what's generating this stress and anxiety and this ongoing, persistent, chronic stress. Um, and when our bodies are sort of used to this level of stress, well, I don't want to say used to, because what actually happens is that when we are in this fight or flight state for a long period of time, our nervous system actually gets sensitized to that level of stress, such that, or it becomes more sensitive, if you like, so that any further stresses, even, if they are small, you might get a big response because you're already all revved up and hyped up. And so, a lot of the stress management techniques that I teach are really about what we can do to balance out and start to downregulate your nervous system so that we come back to more of the rest and digest and heal mode of the body rather than being stuck in the fight or flight mode. And so, because the internal stresses that we create for ourselves are ones that we can't get away from. And when we can't get away from our stress, we get stuck in this fight or flight mode. So, one thing that you might think of is then, okay, let's find a way to manage or deal with these internal stresses. So, one of the ways that, or one of the concepts that I like to introduce here is that, oftentimes when we feel stress, we look externally, right? We look at what caused that stress to us, and we're sort of looking for someone to blame. Um, but, whatever that triggered your reaction in the first place, usually that is just the very tip of the iceberg. So, whatever trigger a reaction out of you, that emotion already lives inside you. And so, by someone or something or a situation triggering that reaction from within you, even though it's easy to blame and put the attention outward and say, that's why I was mad. If you didn't do this, I wouldn't be mad. It's easy to fall into that way of thinking. And we've been conditioned to think like that also. But, one of the ways to build resiliency is to start to change our relationship with things that cause us stress or things or triggers or stresses that we encounter in our lives. Because yes, there is, a certain level of stress when something happens to us. But also a big part of how stressed we feel is from the way we perceive the stress. So our perception of the stressor, in addition to, the stressor as well, altogether is going to create the intensity of stress, anxiety, or pain that we feel in that given moment. So while we may not be able to change our external environment or predict what's going to happen, what that person might say to us, or what would happen in a particular situation, we don't have control of that external environment. We do have control of our internal environment, even though you might not feel like you do right now, but this can be trained and this can be changed. So we hold the power to change the perception of our stress and the reaction to that stress, our reaction to that stress. So by doing this is how we increase stress resiliency. We start to train ourselves to have a different perspective, a different relationship with the stress, to see the stress in a different way so that our experience of the stress is going to be different in our bodies, and the emotions that are generated from that stress will also be different because now you're seeing it and responding to it in a different way. And in that way, when the same, stressful situation that usually might, throw you off, when they come into your life again, you're not going to feel the same level of stress and you're not going to react the same way as you, had done in the past. And then as you continue to build and work on yourself, continue to set that, different mindset, to find also something that can be trained is to build this inner safety and peace within yourself. And this is a place where you feel completely at ease and well and, grounded and centered. And this is a feeling sense that you can train in your body. And this is one of the things that I do with iRest meditation is to help you to explore that place of safety and to help you to build on it. because a lot of the times when we feel stress and we act out, these are reactions. Most of the time we don't want to behave that way, and maybe after the fact we would even feel bad or disappointed or even ashamed of the way that we reacted in a situation. But in that moment, you felt like you didn't have a choice. You didn't feel like you had another option. It just came out, right? And it felt like you didn't have control. By building that inner safety, we call this the inner resource. By building this inner resource within yourself and continue to grow this space within you, we can then find this place of safety and act and react from this place when we meet a challenge. And this is going to completely change your relationship with the, difficulty that you're faced with, the emotions that would come up, and, your responses to that situation. Because going back to what I was saying is when we react, when we feel like it's out of our control, a lot of the times we react based on things like our fears, our insecurities, some misconception about the situation or limiting beliefs that drives us to act defensively, to yeah, I think most of the time, when we react is because we've had experiences or conditioning that taught us to behave the certain way. That there's a limiting belief about ourselves or an insecurity in ourselves that we feel like we need to be defensive or protective of ourselves. Whereas the reality of the situation may be a little bit different than what you think. And so in iRest meditation, we work on all of these things. We work on how can we start to change our perception to the stress, how we can build this inner safety within us to make sure that we have a place we can retreat to if we need to, but also it provides us a place to stand strong and feel, safe and powerful in such a way that we have a clarity of mind when we deal with difficulty, which often is lost on us when we start to, fuse with our emotions and get reactive. And then all in all, you're going to learn to see things in a different light. And so situations that come to you, instead of automatically jumping to conclusions, for instance, or reacting, you start to take a step back and to see things as they are. And so in doing so, you're going to feel less stressed overall because you're not seeing the world as a threat. Like not everyone is out to get you. Like you start to change that mindset and see that, oh, things are coming up for me. These are messages that are coming up. What am I supposed to be doing with this? And then you're going to, and you might even be able to remain in your inner resource as you tackle all of these challenges. And so when we build stress resiliency, it's really more about it's more about changing that relationship you have with stress, while at the same time getting more and more clear on what it is that you need and you want in life. And so we talk about the heartfelt desire, right? What is the deepest calling? What is your deepest heartfelt desire within you? That driving force that moves you in life. And so all of these things, as you start to understand yourself better and get to know yourself better and feel, rooted in yourself, then this, again, all of these things together is going to help you feel more at peace and at ease in the life that, in your life, no matter, what else is happening around you. So I hope this was helpful or interesting. Do reach out to me if you have any questions, and And yeah, and if you have any other questions or any topics you'd like to hear about, do let me know. Next week, I will have to do this call a little bit early, so I'll be doing it at 8:30. So hopefully you can tune in. But otherwise, have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you next Tuesday at 8:30 Pacific time. Take care, everyone.